Is the back button focus something you should be using on your camera? Is it going to improve your photography? What does it do? When does a professional photographer use it? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about the back button focus, how to set it up correctly, how to use it, when not to use it, and what it can do to improve your photography. But first, before I get into that, who am I? My name is Mike Patterson, and I've been a professional full-time photographer in Western Canada for over 39 years. I've made my living exclusively from photography. I've shot every type of photography you can imagine. I sell my services and my prints to people all around the world. Not only that, but I started a number of years ago a full-service photo lab that I print from beginners to experts. And I teach what I know to these people and to people around the world so they can get better photos. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how by using the back button focus, you can improve your photography. So let's get going. But what is it? What's this back button focus? Well, it's quite easy. Back, it's on the back of the camera. Button, it's a button. And when you push it, it focuses. That's what it does. So if I'm going to take a picture, I can push this button on the back of my camera and it focuses. Hey, pretty straightforward. Push it again, focuses again. Now, you say, wait. Doesn't your shutter button do the same thing? Yep, it does. But you see, the shutter button does three things at the same time. It focuses, it takes the exposure, and then it takes the picture. And sometimes you don't want it to do all the same things all at once. You want to be able to, stop the focus, lock onto something. So using the back button focus correctly will do this. But there are problems. As your camera comes, the back button is active. It works. It will do what it's supposed to do. But the shutter button will also fight it. And you'll have problems with this because you'll use the back button focus and then you'll use the shutter button and you'll have problems with your focus. And this causes many people, a lot of headaches. Perfect example. A number of years ago, I was at an event. I was not the photographer. I saw the photographer there. I knew who the photographer was. They were doing a great job, it looked like, through the whole evening. And all of a sudden, they got to this one point and things bogged down for them big time. And I wandered over to see what was happening. And I stood back and I watched. And I knew exactly, after a couple minutes of watching, what was happening. This person was shooting some groups. They were using the back button. They would focus on the group, so they would get the person that was most important in focus. They would recompose slightly, but they let their finger off the back button. Then they would push the shutter button, and it would focus on the back wall, or it'd focus on something else. They would take the picture, they would look at their camera, and they would go, uh-oh, it's out of focus. So they would try it all over again. This is the problem that most people have by using the back button focus. Now, you can focus it, you can get it to focus on something, then you can use the shutter button as long as you hold your finger down, but they're fighting one another. And you run many risks by doing it like that your camera is going to miss focus. So using it the way it came out of the box, I don't recommend. Another situation, and I've mentioned this before in my videos about my Sigma 150 to 600. And this just shocked me. Somebody came into my studio a number of years ago, and they were talking to me about printing. And I was talking to them. Halfway through our little talk, they zoned out, and I could see they wanted to ask me something. So I stopped talking, and they says, "What do you know about this camera?" The camera they mentioned was my dream camera. I said, "I know a lot about it." And they said, "What do you know about this lens?" Oh, my jaw hit the floor. That lens was my dream lens. They had my dream camera and my dream lens. I said, "Oh, I'd love to have that." And they said, "Don't buy it. It's a waste." I said, "Excuse me?" They said, "I've sent my lens to Canon 6 times. I've sent my camera body to Canon 5 times. I sent them both to Canon 3 times, and they can't fix it." And I said, "Wow, that's shocking." And they says, "Can I bring it in? Can you look at it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I can do that Canon hasn't." I said, "But you're welcome to." A week later, they came in, set it on my desk here, and I was drooling. It was my dream. Took the camera, took the lens, went outside, shot some pictures. Now, just so you understand, I'm in my office. Just behind my office is one of these big metal commercial garbage cans. You know, the kinds that, like, they weigh 10,000 pounds or whatever it is, and the big truck comes and lifts them up. So I took the camera, took the lens, went outside, shooting some stuff, and I shot the garbage can. Came back in, put the pictures on my computer here, and I looked at them and I went, how can the garbage can be going Mach 3 or Warp 8 or whatever it was? But it looked like it was moving stupid fast. And I'm like, that's not right. And he says, that's the problem I'm having. Every single picture's like that. I says, well, there's definitely an issue here. I says, can I reset your camera? He says, do whatever you want. So I reset all the functions and features and everything on the camera and put it back to factory settings. And I made sure all the buttons and the lens was correct. I then took the camera and the lens outside, shot everything again, came back, put them on my computer, and they worked perfect. He was really thankful. He took his camera and lens, went out and did some pictures, wildlife stuff, came back in a week later. And I says, how does it work? He says, it works really good. I says, great. I says, see, it's fixed. He says, yeah, now I just have to go home and program it. I says, whoa, wait, stop. What do you mean program it? He says, well, I follow so-and-so, and he says that I should set this button for this, and this button for this, and this button for this. Well, here's the problem. He went one step further than what I'm about to tell you to go, and he changed all the buttons on his camera. So he had the back focus button working, which is fine. He had the shutter button working to take the pictures, but he moved his exposure button over on the other side of his camera, and it actually took two hands to hold all of this, and he was trying to also hold his camera. Well, you can't do that. Unfortunately, the person that he was following online, supposedly a world-famous photographer, told him to do this. And he took his course, and he told him to do it in the course. And I said, but that won't work. I said, you're hand holding your camera. He said, I don't like a tripod. He says, but he told you how to do it if you were using a tripod. So don't go too far in the settings, but do the following to make your back focus work correctly. Don't change everything else unless you know what you're changing, but here's what you need to do. So what you need to do is you need to go into menu. You need to go over to your custom functions. Then you need to go down to where it says custom controls. Click on your set button, and it'll enter into the screen that'll show you a whole bunch of stuff. And the very first one is what you want to start with. And that's where your shutter button is. That's up here. It shows you a little picture of it here. And you want to click on the OK, and you're going to have 3 selections. For today's talk, we want to go to the following setting. The first one is metering and autofocus start. That we don't want. You go to the next one where it says metering start. That's the one you want to do today. You want to click on the OK, the set button, and it will set that. Now, here's what you just did. You're going to go take a picture, and when you push your shutter button down, it's not going to try to focus. When you click on your autofocus back button here, it will focus for you. This button will not focus it. So now it's set up to work correctly. But as you may see, there's a little problem with this. Now this isn't working at all. So if I want to just do a quick picture, I have to remember to use the back focus button. If your camera happens to have custom functions, I strongly recommend setting all this up under one of the custom settings. It works great, and that's what I've done on this camera. When I'm in program mode, this is my focus button. This is my shutter button. This is my exposure button. When I go to custom setting 1, this is no longer my focus, but this is my focus. Why do I do it like that? Because sometimes I don't want to use the back focus button. Sometimes it doesn't work correctly. Sometimes the situation is really rushed and I just need pictures. So it's a pain to hit the 2 buttons. So if your camera has it, and I've heard some of the newer cameras, the mirrorless ones, specifically the Canon R5 Mark II, I've heard no longer has the custom settings up here, which is really depressing if they've got rid of it. But if your camera has that, I strongly recommend setting it up so that your custom setting is back focus only. And then when you're using program modes such as program, aperture priority, shutter priority, or even manual, this is no longer just the way of doing it. It's now set up properly. So I strongly recommend that. So what does it do? Well, here's what it does. When I'm using the back focus button, I can focus on something, and then when I let my finger go, I can then take my exposure, I can adjust my exposure, I can do whatever I want, and it's not going to try refocusing again. And this works great in many situations where your subject isn't moving. Groups of people, like that photographer was doing, if they would have set their camera up like this, it would have been perfect. You're doing waterfalls, you're doing astrophotography. Now you say, but wait, You said in another video that you talked about when you talked about focusing modes that you could use manual for astrophotography or manual for waterfalls or manual for fireworks. You can. But this is a way of having your camera assist you just like it was in manual mode. So it's focused, it's locked, I let go, it's not going to try focusing again. The lens it's just like it's in manual. It works great for that, fabulous for that. And I love it for stuff like that. When don't I like it? Well, like I just said before, quick moving stuff when you're shooting stuff on a rapid basis. I do a lot of work where I go and I shoot, buildings. So I'll walk into a building, I'll walk through and go click, 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 or a client will phone me and say, I need you to photograph a car for me because it's got some damage and I need to I'm in a lawsuit or I need to take this to my insurance company or whatever. And I'll just go in there and go click, 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 and I'm done. You don't need the back focus button for all of that stuff. It will work, but you don't need it. So there's times when you need it, times when you don't need it. That's why I like having it in my custom function. So what does it do? How can it help you improve your photography? Well, here's how it helps really well. You take the focus, then you can recompose a little bit, then you can take your picture. You can take your focus, you can take your exposure, you can adjust your exposure, then you can take your pictures, and you don't have to worry about changing your focus. You can take your focus, you can, if you're on a tripod, you can take picture after picture after picture after picture, and the focus will be the same in all pictures. So that's where it works really well, and it works really good. What focus mode should you use? And if you haven't watched my video on focus modes, please go and watch that video. It was just recently put up there, and it'll explain focus modes. Well, you have 3 on your camera, basically. Well, 4 if you include manual. But it doesn't work in manual because, manual's manual. It will tell you in manual, though, if you're in focus by that little beep, but you'll still have to change the focus yourself. It works really good in one shot because you can focus, then you can recompose, then you can take the picture. And it also works really good in AI servo. Now, you notice I didn't say AI focus. I hate that mode. Don't use that mode. But in AI servo, it works really well. You can track a subject as it's moving. Then you can take the picture. You can track the subject, stop tracking the subject, then take the picture. There's so many things that you can do using the back focus button. But the biggest thing, if I can warn you about anything, is go in and make sure you've set it so that the shutter button is shut off from doing your focusing. It will save you so many headaches and it'll make your photography so much better. So down below, put in the comments if you use the back button focus, why you use it, what works for you, and let me know how long you've used it for. We'll talk to you next time. Have a great day. Get out there and take some amazing pictures. Bye-bye now.